There, and you got us now?
Try that.
We do.
Yes.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do you need Senator Hawk to give you them numbers again, or are you okay?
Yes, if there was any business transacted before this point, we are oblivious to that. So if you could repeat that, that'd be great.
Okay, we'll have Senator Hawk repeat his.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. RS number 1182, distinctive license plates, and RS number 1318, property tax and continuation of statewide levy for schools. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, okay, Willie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To request a Senate concurrent resolution. The draft number is 2021 RS 1243. It has to do with legislative oversight of rules and regs.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We accept that. Second by Senator Clays. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It's accepted. Thank you, Willie. Appreciate it. Okay, at this time, we will move on to our subcommittee reports, and we will have the Transparency and Ethics, and we'll have Senator Erickson start out with the Abstractors Board of Examiners.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the Abstractors Board of Examiners for FY21, the agency requests a revised estimate of $25,703, all from the Abstractors Fee Fund. This is the same amount approved in 2020. It does not include any FTE positions, which is the same that was approved in 2021. The governor concurs with the agency's estimate, and the Senate Committee on Transparency and Ethics concurs with the governor's recommendations.
Any questions on 21? Seeing none, please proceed.
Moving on to 2022, the agency requests an operating expenditures of $25,716, all from the Abstractors Fee Fund. This is an increase of a whopping $13 due to increased salaries and wages and fringe benefits. Again, no FTE positions. The governor concurs with the agency's request, and the Senate Committee on Transparency and Ethics concurs with the governor's.
Thank you. Any questions on 22? Seeing none, if you'd like to make a motion to approve them, we'll just do them as we go. Pardon me?
We have one more.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
All right. Yep, I see it.
For 2023, the agency requests operating expenditures of $25,717, all from the Abstractors Fee Fund. Again, an increase of $1 due to increased expenditures for salaries and wages, fringe benefits. The governor concurs with the agency's request, and the Senate Committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 2023.
Any questions on 23? Seeing none, Senator, if you'd like to make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move we approve the Abstractors Board of Examiners budget for fiscal years 2021, 22, and 23 as recommended by the governor.
We have a second by Senator Clays. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will have the Board of Technical Professionals. Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For fiscal year 2021, the Board of Technical Professions requests a revised estimate of $780,000, all from the Board of Technical Professions Fee Fund. This is the same amount approved in 2020. It includes 5 FTEs, which is the same as the 2021 approved number. The governor concurs with the agency's revised estimate, and the Committee on Transparency and Ethics concurs with the governor's recommendations.
Any questions on 21? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For 2022, the agency requests operating expenditures of $786,000, all from the Board of Technical Professions Fee Fund. This is an increase of $5,254, and this is due to expenditures for salaries and wages and contractual services. Again, 5 FTE positions, which is the same as 2021. The governor concurs with the agency's request, and the Senate Committee on Transparency and Ethics concurs with the governor's recommendation.
Any questions on 22? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For fiscal year 2023, the agency requests operating expenditures of $792,000, all from the Board of Technical Professions Fee Fund. It's an increase of $5,919 due to expenditures for salaries and wages and contractual services. Same 5 FTE positions. The governor concurs with the agency's request, and the Senate Committee on Transparency and Ethics concurs with the governor's recommendations.
Are there any questions on 23? Seeing none, Senator, you might make your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move we approve the board, the Board of Technical Professions budget for fiscal years 2021, 22, and 23 as recommended by the governor.
I have a second by Senator Clays. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will have Board of Accountancy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Board of Accountancy for FY21 requests an operating expenditure of $420,478, all from the Board of Accountancy Fee Fund. It's the same as the FY 2021 amount. They request 3 FTE positions, which is the same as the approved number. The governor concurs with the agency's estimate, and the committee concurs with the governor's recommendation.
Any questions on 21? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For fiscal year 2022, the agency requests operating expenditures of $440,976, all from the Board of Accountancy Fee Fund. This is an increase of $20,498 due to overlapping salary and health insurance benefits to the retirement of the executive director and the director's replacement, increases in rent, IT costs, and a vacant position being filled in 2021. The agency again requests 3 FTE, which is the same as 2021. The governor concurs with the agency's request, and the committee concurs with the governor's recommendations.
Questions on 22? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For 2023, the agency requests operating expenditures of $443,348, all from the Board of Accountancy Fee Fund. This is an increase of $2,372 due to paying fringe benefits for both the retiring executive director and the replacement for 2023. The same 3 FTE positions. The governor concurs with the agency's request, and the committee concurs with the governor's recommendations.
Any questions on 23? Seeing none?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we approve the Board of Accountancy budget for fiscal years 2021, 22, and 23 as recommended by the governor.
I have a second by Senator Clays. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Please proceed to the Board of Examiners and Fitting and Dispensing of Hearing Instruments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For fiscal year 2021, this agency requests a revised estimate of $26,907, all from the Hearing Aid Board Fee Fund. This is the same as was approved in 2020. The governor recommends expenditures of $41,907, all from the Hearing Aid Board Fee Fund. It's an increase of $15,000 due to the addition of $15,000 to finance a contract for the development of an interactive agency website, and the committee concurs with the governor's recommendation.
Questions on 21? So where did this $15,000 come from?
It's out of the same fee fund.
Senator Clays?
So just building off that, why didn't the agency ask for it? Was there a explainer on why the governor added this and not the agency? And then, like, what does this thing do?
I do not recall that being addressed in committee, so if there's a staff member who could address that.
Can staff answer it?
Yes. I'm Sailor Sinclair, the analyst for this agency. I talked with the executive director, Dr. Zach Martin, about why he did not address this in the narrative. He just failed to do so. He did want it. He spoke with the department or division of budget about having this website and what it would cost and what it would take to create such a website. So he does in fact want it. The website is what he has entailed to me would allow for the licensure processes to be more streamlined. At this point, he does everything by paper. He's a one-man show. With this website, he can be more efficient with the licensure processes and have it online. Thank you.
So he did request it.
He does, in fact, want it. He just didn't mention it in the agency's narrative whenever he submitted it.
Senator Clays?
Yeah, thank you, Sailor. That's plenty. I appreciate it.
Any other questions? Seeing none, please proceed to 22.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For 2022, the agency requests operating expenditures of $27,188, all from the Hearing Aid Board Fee Fund. This is an increase of $281 due to computer programming and stationery and office supplies. The governor recommends expenditures of $32,188 from the Hearing Board Fee Fund. And this is an increase of $5,000 above the request due to the addition of $5,000 to finance a contract for the maintenance of the agency website. The committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 2022.
Any questions on 22? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For 2023, the agency requests an operating expenditures of $27,370, all from the Hearing Aid Board Fee Fund. This is an increase of $182 due to postage, printing, advertising, stationery, and office supplies. The governor recommends expenditures of $32,370, all from the Hearing Aid Board Fee Fund. This is an increase of $5,000 to finance the contract for the maintenance of the interactive agency website, and the committee concurs with the governor's recommendations for 2023.
Senator Erickson, can you tell me on the ongoing basis then, or is this something we'll see every year, this 5,000? Is that just?
Steph might be able to speak, but I believe that will be the ongoing maintenance fee for that website.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that is correct. It will be through the Office of Information Technology Services.
So will they have to raise their fees here at some point in time?
That's a question I would probably defer to the agency. At this moment, didn't let me know that he has any plans to raise it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, you can make your motion, Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move we approve the Kansas Board of Examiners in fitting and dispensing of hearing instruments budget for fiscal years 2021, 22, and 23 as recommended by the governor.
I have a motion, seconded by Senator Clays. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next agency will be the Optometry Board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For fiscal year 2021, the Board of Examiners in Optometry requests a revised estimate of $166,597, all from the Optometry Fee Fund. This is the same amount approved in 2020, and they have one FTE. The governor concurs with the agency's estimate, and the committee concurs with the governor's recommendation.
Any questions on 21? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For 2022, the agency requests $172,099, all from the Optometry Fee Fund. Again, a 1.0 FTE. This is an increase of $502, and this is due to increased expenditures for the OIDS fees, computer use, internet service, employer contributions to group health insurance, and public employee retirement. The governor concurs with the agency's request, and the committee concurs with the governor's recommendation.
Questions on 22? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For 2023, the agency requests $174,618, all from the Optometry Fee Fund. This is an increase of $2,519. Due to the same expenditure increases as in 2022, again, a 1.0 FTE. The governor concurs with the agency's request, and the committee concurs with the governor's recommendation.
Okay, questions on 23, and I have one for staff. These OTIS fees, Do we have some fines pending with the federal government on these Otis fees that they've been overcharging? Do I have that correct?
Mr. Chairperson,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, this is Stephen Wu with Legislative Research. I'd be happy to answer that. There are repayments budgeted for the statewide cost allocation plan. You'll see those reflected in the OITS budget that is scheduled to report out later this week.
Okay, I just wondering because, you know, I think this is the first one where we've seen these Otis increases. So, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, Senator Erickson, you want to make your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move we approve the Board of Examiners and Optometry budget for fiscal years 2021, 22, and 23 as recommended by the governor.
I have a motion, second by Senator Clays. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to education, and we'll have Senator Erickson start out with the School of the Blind.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the Kansas State School for the Blind for fiscal year 2021, the agency requests a revised estimate of $7.8 million. This is a $5.7 million SGF and an all funds increase of $56,965, a special revenue fund increase of $56,974. It includes 81.5 FTE positions, which is the same as the approved number. For the operating budget, it includes $6.9 million, including $5.7 million SGF. This is an all funds increase of $62,951, and a special revenue funds increase of $62,960, and this is attributable to the agency filling new positions for 2021. For capital improvement expenditures, the cost of $940,443 is the estimate. This is a decrease of $5,986 due to the deletion of funding that was reappropriated from 2020 to 2021. The governor recommends total expenditures of $8.3 million. This is a federal funds increase of $457,649. This is attributable to the Office of Recovery allocating the same amount from the Federal Coronavirus Relief Fund, and again, 81.5 FTE positions, which is the same. And the Committee on Education concurs with the governor's recommendation.
Questions on 21? Seeing none, please proceed to 22.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For 2022, the agency requests an operating budget of $6.9 million, including $5.8 million SGF. This is an all funds increase of $54,484. SGF increase of $92,326, and a special revenue fund decrease of $37,842. The same 81.5 FTE positions. The SGF increase is attributable to an increase in salaries and wages, and the special revenue fund decrease is attributable to a decrease in expenditures for the school breakfast and lunch programs. For capital improvement, the agency requests $919,016. This is all from the state institutions building fund. This is a decrease of $21,427 and is attributable to the completion of a secure breezeway. The governor concurs with the agency's request, and the Committee on Education concurred with the governor's recommendation.
Any questions on 22? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move we approve the Kansas State School for the Blind budget for fiscal years 2021 and 22 as recommended by the governor.
We have a motion and a second by Senator Clays. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll have the School of the Deaf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the Kansas State School for the Deaf for fiscal year 2021, the agency requests a revised estimate of $11.8 million. That's $9.4 million from SGF. This is an all funds decrease of $216,172. and an SGF decrease of $401. They have 143.5 FTE positions, which is the same as 2020. The operating budget request is $10.4 million, including $9.4 million SGF. This is an all funds decrease of $207,388 and an SGF decrease of $401. The all funds decrease is primarily attributable to decreased contractual services, expenditures for travel reimbursement, and decreased computer software maintenance costs. For capital improvements, the budget of $1.4 million, all from the State Institutions Building Fund. This is a decrease of $8,784, and this is due to the agency requesting the deletion of that same amount of $169,129 reappropriated from 2020 to 2021. The remainder of the reappropriated funds is attributable to the Roth building repairs scheduled in 2020 that were not completed and are now scheduled to be completed in 2021. The governor recommends total expenditures of $12.2 million, which is $9.4 million SGF. This is an all funds increase of $440,117 and is attributable to the Office of Recovery allocating federal coronavirus relief fund monies. And again, 143.5 FTE positions, which is the same. As far as operating expenditure, the governor recommends $10.7 million, which includes $9.4 million SGF. This is an all funds increase of $320,834. It's attributable, again, to the Office of Recovery allocating that same amount for COVID-19 related expenditures. The governor's capital improvement recommendation budget is $1.5 million, all from special revenue funds. This is an all funds increase of $119,283 and is attributable, again, to the Office of Recovery allocating the same amount for HVAC plasma ionization devices for COVID-19. The Committee on Education concurs with the governor's recommendation.
Are there questions on 2021? Senator Hawk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I have a question for staff. I'm just curious what the student count number is in terms of full-time students at the School for the Blind versus School for the Deaf.
Stephen, do you have that?
I noticed there's 60 plus more staff members at the School for the Deaf. Was just curious what the student populations are.
I'm going to defer to Norma Volkmer, our analyst for that agency.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Norma Volkmer. I have the School for the Blind had an estimated 38 students on campus for fiscal year 2020 and the same for fiscal year 2021. And the School for the Deaf, I believe, was a little over 100 for fiscal year 2020. I could get that number for you before the budget is moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then just one follow-up question. And I should know this too, but it's made me think about this. So the School for the Blind and School for the Deaf don't get traditional school funding based budget per pupil. Is that correct? It's strictly this budget, and they don't get any money through the state school finance formula, correct?
That's correct. They don't get the base aid.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions? Senator Petty.
Their salary schedules, though, are tied to what the Olathe School District is.
Any other questions? Seeing none, you can move to 22, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For fiscal year 2022, the agency requests $12.2 million. That includes $10.1 million SGF. It's an all funds increase of $428,393 and the same 143.5 FTE. For operating budget, they include $11 million. This is $10.1 million SGF. It's an all-funds increase of $623,516 and an SGF increase of $626,019. This is attributable to increased expenditures due to the agency's enhancement request for the Language Assessment Program Phase 3 and the filling of a full-time housekeeping position. For capital improvement, they request a budget of $1.2 million, all from the state institution's building fund. This is a decrease of $195,123 and is attributable to the anticipated completion of the Roth building renovations. The governor recommends total expenditures of $11.6 million. That includes $9.6 million SGF. It's an all-funds decrease of $637,685 and an SGF decrease of $466,658, same 143.5 FTE positions. For operating expenditures, there's $10.5 million, including $9.6 million SGF. This is a decrease in SGF of $466,658, and this is due to the governor not recommending the agency's enhancement request to fund Phase 3 of the Language Assessment Program. For capital improvements, the governor recommends a budget of $1 million, all from the state institution's building fund. This is a decrease of $171,027 due to the governor not recommending funding upgrading the West Campus playground. The Committee on Education concurs with the governor's recommendation with the following notation. The committee requests the Senate Ways and Means review at omnibus funding the implementation of Phase 3 of the Language Assessment Program with additional information from the Children's Cabinet, Kansas State Department of Education, and Kansas State School for the Deaf.
Questions on 22? I guess I have one. So we've done Phase 1 and Phase 2, so we're up to Phase 3. Are there more phases after that? Do you know?
I'm not sure if there are phases after that. We have done Phase 1 and 2, and the agency and committee feels like this assessment is critical to the functioning of the agency.
Thank you. Staff, is this the final of 3, or is there more?
Certainly. So, Mr. Chairman, this is Norma with Legislative Research. There are 5 phases to the full implementation. Phase 3 would have been originally scheduled for fiscal year 2021. They asked via an enhancement last year. It wasn't funded. So they're seeking the implementation of Phase 2 in the fiscal year 2022. And then Phase 4 and Phase 5 would be fiscal year 2023 and fiscal year 2024, and that would be full implementation. And I do have the number of students enrolled on campus for the School for the Deaf was approximately 148 students in fiscal year 2020, with an estimate of 153 students for fiscal year 2021.
Can you give us a little idea on what the language assessment program is?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. So the language assessment program is full-time. It would include 10 specialists who travel across the state to assess children for deaf and hard of hearing. The full implementation would serve 772 children, so they would be able to assess 772 children. Currently, they're in Phase 2, which is 110 children, and these are assessments for children ages 3 to 8. And then they would, in additional phases, it would be expanding an outreach for children 3 to 8. So kind of each phase adds additional programs as well as additional staff to do more assessments. It was originally established as part of the advisory committee that established the program under KSA 75-5397E, so 75-5397E. And the purpose was, of course, to just assess children for deaf and hard of hearing issues. It was implemented via phases, more for practical reasons. The first two phases were absorbed by the School for the Deaf cost. For cost, that was about 110,000 each fiscal year, and that was fiscal year 2019 and fiscal year 2020. And so the 466,000 that is requested in the enhancement request for phase 3 would just expand that program. It would double the children being assessed, so it would take it from 110 children to 250 children annually. And you would see the children increase in each phase. And so it was implemented originally in phases simply to kind of be able to work in the additional staff and additional contractual services costs. So that's what the majority of that 46,000 is.
So are these kids not getting any help at all then?
I don't know about help. It's the assessment and kind of the outreach to more and more children. So it could be that they're just not learning as early, that they are having, that they're deaf or hard of hearing to the same degree. But my understanding is that the phases are essentially to include greater staff so they can assess a greater number of children.
Seems to me like if something shouldn't wait. So I'm glad that the committee is recommending that we look at this at almost. Senator Petty.
You might remember when this legislation passed is that also the School for the Deaf, they felt that it was important that the same assessment be being offered across the state to all children, and that they be followed. And so that's the stages. So as you saw on this recommendation that came from the Senate Committee on Education about looking to, so right now there are discussions about the funding because children that have a hearing impairment, depending on their age, the funding can come through Tiny K, and then they would have an IEP, and it would come through special ed. And so that's why you see Children's Cabinet, the State Department of Education, and the School for the Deaf when it comes to the funding of this, because it, as you can see, it is an increasing amount of money because the assessment continues throughout. It's not just at birth, it continues for a period of time. And the School of the Deaf wants, well, if I remember correctly, wants the continuity of their staff being the ones that are continuing to do the testing.
Thank you. Any other questions? Senator Hawk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick follow-up. So this doesn't necessarily mean that these students aren't getting services. They might be getting services through Tiny K and special education as they move into school. It's just a question of having a similar continuous assessment that would be done by these 10 traveling School of the Deaf personnel, but they may be getting some assessment done in their local school districts. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Senator Petty?
True, and the School for the Deaf, if I remember this right, from when we had this bill originally, there is the whole thing about children that have a hearing impairment, about their performance as they move through school, and their graduation rates, and their ability to have the skills to be employable. And so that was another piece of the School for the Deaf, wanting to have this continuity because they, they're wanting to improve those performance measures for children that have hearing impairment. And they believe that this continuity can lend to that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Erickson?
this is This is
Norma,
Norma
go ahead.
Volkmer. Yep, I just wanted to clarify, yeah, so the main focus of those assessments is ensuring children meet the language milestones for their, like, age-appropriate language milestones. So that's why the focus of ages 3 to 8 is ensuring that they're meeting language milestones for deaf and hard of hearing, so either American Sign Language or English.
Thank you. Any other questions? You'd like to proceed to 2023?
Actually, Mr. Chair, yes. So, Mr. Chairman,
Any other questions? Seeing if you want to make a motion?
yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move we approve the Kansas State School for the Deaf budget for fiscal years 21 and 22 as recommended by the governor, with the request that the language assessment program funding be reviewed at omnibus.
We have a second by Senator Clays. And any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next agency we'll have is Department of Education. Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the Department of Education for fiscal year 2021, the agency requests a revised estimate of $5.7 billion, including $4 billion from SGF. This is a special revenue fund increase of $105.7 million. The estimate includes 261.9 FTE positions, which is a decrease of 2.3 FTE. The increase in the funding is primarily attributable to the receipt of CARES Act money to respond to COVID-19 and the awarding of a new federal preschool development Birth Through 5 renewal grant to the Kansas Children's Cabinet. The governor recommends revised expenditures of $5.7 billion, including $3.9 billion SGF. This is an all funds increase of $3.6 million and an SGF decrease of $30.1 million. The recommendation includes 261.9 FTE position, which is the same as the agency's request. This increase in funding is primarily attributable to the allocation of $41.6 million of the CRF and Spark task force funds to the Children's Cabinet, offset by the governor's recommendation to adopt the fall 2020 education consensus estimates and the depletion of reappropriated funds. The Committee on Education concurs with the governor's recommendation with the following adjustments: adding language requiring ks.gov to fund the Center for Reading Project Manager grant position from existing resources for fiscal year 2021. And this person will assist in the development of a science of reading curricula for Kansas Board of Regents based on knowledge and practice standards set by ks.gov. The project manager will also develop and support resources for school districts, including textbooks, professional development, and a list of qualified trainers. Secondly, add language requiring ks.gov to fund the interim dyslexia coordinator consultant position from existing resources for fiscal year 2021. This position would serve as chair of the hiring committee to oversee the hiring and work of the reading project manager and meet weekly with the dyslexia coordinator to provide continuity and support.
Questions on 21? Senator Hawk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Where is the Center for Reading Project Manager located? Does that exist currently?
Norma, do you know? Is that yours?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Hawk, the reading project manager position would be a new position. My understanding is it would be a new position to coordinate with the dyslexia coordinator position.
And is there a dyslexia coordinator position now at KDHE?
Mr. Chairman, there is not a dyslexia coordinator position at KSDE. It was submitted as an enhancement request by the agency. It was recommended by the Legislative Task Force on Dyslexia, both this year and to the 2020 legislature as well, that position be added. Currently, I believe some of the training that the dyslexia coordinator would oversee implemented by another Department of Education employee, but it is not a dyslexia coordinator, no.
So as if I see this right, then essentially this recommendation is to add one additional position, and that would be the dyslexia coordinator position, and there already exists a reading project manager. Is that correct?
Norma?
Mr. Chairman, no, my understanding is the positions would be adding positions. They would not add FTE. They would just add the positions. There are currently vacant FTE in the department. And so my understanding is the request would simply add that they fund these positions without adding additional FTE or additional cost.
So out of existing staff or budget? Okay,
That's
thank
correct.
you. I appreciate that clarification. Thanks,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My understanding, and Norma jump in here, but is that KSDE currently has 2 FTE that are not filled for the fiscal year, so they are willing to use those 2 FTE positions for this first year of initiating a dyslexia coordinator.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, please proceed to 22.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For fiscal year 2022, the agency requests expenditures of $5.8 billion, including $4.2 billion SGF. This is an all funds increase of $191.1 million and an SGF increase of $259.9 million. It includes 262.9 FTE positions, which is the increase of the 1 FTE. The SGF increase is attributable to the increase of state foundation aid, CAPERS contributions, and SPED funding. These increases are due to school funding requirements included in the legislation that we passed in 2018. This increase is partially offset by a reduction in federal funding due to the end of COVID-19 funding for 2021. The governor recommends expenditures of $5.8 billion, including $4.2 billion SGF. This is an all funds decrease of $57.6 million and an SGF decrease of $45.4 million. It includes 261.9 FTE positions, which is the decrease of 1 FTE. The all funds decrease is attributable to the governor's recommendation to adopt the fall 2020 education consensus estimates and the governor not recommending the agency's enhancement requests. The FTE position decrease is attributable to the governor not recommending creating a dyslexia coordinator position. The Senate Committee on Education concurs with the governor's recommendations with the following adjustments. Number 1, add $100,000 all SGF for the statewide dyslexia coordinator position for FY 2022. Number 2, add $80,000 SGF for the Center for Reading Project Manager grant. Number 3, add $40,000 SGF for the interim dyslexia coordinator and consultant. And number 4, add $30,000 all SGF for implementation grants. And Mr. Chair, this is the continuation of implementing the recommendations from the Dyslexia Task Force and providing the funding for the oversight of those efforts.
Thank you. Questions on 2022, Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we're at the stage where we make motion to amend, I would like to make an amendment to this.
Okay, 1 second, see if there was any questions, and we'll proceed. Was there any other questions? Senator Hawk?
Just clarification. So we're adding $250,000 in the budget, where in 21 they were essentially creating these positions within existing staff. Are we adding, but we didn't add staff over here, we reduced staff. So we're adding staff. I'm a little bit confused if we're putting 250,000 in, but we actually reduced staff by 1.
Norma, can you answer that for us, please?
We didn't really reduce it by 1. It's the same as it was.
The question was
certainly,
on staff. Did you hear Senator Hawk was wondering about staff? Okay.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. So the decrease is from the agency's request. So again, the agency's request in fiscal year 2022 included an additional FTE position for the dyslexia coordinator position. The Senate Committee on Education added the positions in fiscal year 2022, as Senator Erickson noted, to continue on the recommendations from fiscal year 2021. The governor's recommendation and the Senate Committee on Education's recommendation did not include additional FTE. So while there is funding for the positions in fiscal year 2022, it wouldn't add additional FTE.
And then is the subcommittee's recommendation essentially to add staff?
Norma?
Mr. Chairman, my understanding of the recommendations is to add the positions, but not to add an additional FTE count. So again, it would just be the Department of Education finding those FTE from within their vacant FTE.
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to be consistent with what we're doing with raises, I would like to remove and hold for omnibus consideration items 1 and 2 in FY21 and items 1 through 4 in FY22 from the Committee on Education's recommendation adjustments.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Senator Fagg seconds. Discussion on leaving these raises till omnibus. Is that what we're doing? Which is what we've done on all the budgets. Senator Petty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the amendment that's offered is in the committee recommendations or in the governor's recommendations? Which is it?
Senator Clays.
So repeating the motion, items 1 and 2 from FY21 and items 1 through 4 in FY22 under the Committee on Education's adjustments to the governor's recommendations, which would be the final bullets on each budget page.
That answer your question? Okay. Senator Hawk.
This is probably a silly question, but I think this budget is the funding of school district's budget, largely plus the State Department's budget. I assume those salaries you're referring to are the State Department employee budgets, not.
Senator Clays.
Am I reading this right?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Well, I'm looking at the $5 billion for the.
I'm not doing anything to the $5 billion.
Yeah, I just.
No.
Good.
The edits, if you want to turn to the subcommittee report, just to be super duper clear, if you go to page 2 of 2021 under the Department of Education, you will see 2 items there, and they are the adding language.
That's just strictly on the dyslexia positions.
There's also the Center for Reading Project Manager's grant position from existing resources. And then if you flip to page 2, which is actually the last page, the back page, it has the 4 items, 100,000, 80,000, 40,000, 30,000, which make up the $250,000 add. I'm just asking that we offset that to omnibus consideration. And I'll ask for that too when we go to additional FTEs that are under the judicial branch, and there will be some others, so that we can look at them all together at once, just as we would any across the board raises.
I'm with you, and thank you for clarifying. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. With that, I guess, Senator Erickson, would you like to make a motion to approve as amended?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I move we approve the Department of Education's budget for FY 21-22 as amended.
We have a second by Senator Clays. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Well, committee, with that, I think we've completed our work for today, so we are adjourned. Thank you.